Hello, I'm Nora, and welcome back to Novels with Nora. Today I am wearing one of my absolute favorite thrift finds. Are you kidding me? This is like the best sweater I've ever found. And the flowers have like little beads in the middle, and then on the sleeve. When I saw this, my mom pulled it out kind of jokingly, and I was like, no, I'm taking that home with me. And I love it so much. This little animal that I'm not really sure what kind of animal it is wearing a sweater that matches the sweater that I'm wearing. Anyway, today I am here to do one of my favorite types of videos, which is a book tag. And today I am doing the end of the year book tag, and I'm so excited for this. I love book tags. I started watching booktube a long time ago, it feels like, in the era of book tags. And I feel like they are really just great ways to like get more immersed in the community, because as much as there is like a community aspect here, and that's why I joined booktube in the first place, it is still very isolating, because as much as like you can talk to people in the comments and like DM them and like have that type of interaction, the aspect of like making the videos and then posting it is very solitary. And like everyone's kind of like doing their own thing. So I feel like book tags are just a great way to really get like more immersed in the community, because everyone's answering the same questions and you still get to see everyone's personality and like creative style shine through, but we're all still doing the same thing. And so I just think it's so fun, and it just really takes me back to like what really made me want to start booktube in the first place, because I still remember the Pullin' Bananas Books Hamilton book tag. And that was like forever ago, but that is what made me want to have a booktube channel. I watched that video like 30 times. I loved it so much, and I love seeing other people's take on it. So whenever I actually see a book tag that's like still happening, because there's really not that many anymore. We have like the mid-year freakout tag, which I did, and then this one, which I actually wasn't super familiar with, but I saw one of my favorite booktubers, Becca in the Books, she did this video, and so then I was like, oh, I'm for sure gonna do that. So I'm super excited. I just love book tags, and like we need to bring back the book tag. Now, we definitely did have some silly ones that like, you know, don't really have a whole lot of bearing anymore, but ones like this that just give you a chance to kind of get to know the booktubers and like know like what their reading tastes are and like what their like content style is. I feel like they're just such a fun way to like find new creators and then like create friends in the space, and also just like get to know each other and like have a sense of community. So I'm a big fan of a book tag, but without further rambling, I'm going to get started on the end of the year book tag. So question number 1 is, are there any books you've started this year and still need to finish? And for me, the answer is no, because if I'm not finishing something, like I'm in the middle of a book right now, but it's my current read, it's like I'm gonna finish it. So I don't feel the need to like put it here, but my current read is Hungerstone and I'm really enjoying it. So I do need / want and I'm going to finish that. But I don't really just like put books down. And if I do, it's usually because I don't want to come back to them. And I think the only 2 things I've put down so far this year have been The Wolf of Oren-Yaro, I believe. And I DNF'd it, and that's why I put it down. And then Eat the Ones You Love, which I thought I was going to go back to, but the farther away I get from it, the more I'm like, I don't really have any desire to go back to it. So no, and also I don't think I ever really will, because when I put things down, it's usually because I'm DNFing them and I no longer have interest in them. So no. Question number 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? And I think that this book tag is meant to be done a little bit earlier, in like September, October time, but since I'm doing it now, I'm going to do autumnal and like winter. So for autumnal, like I said, I'm currently reading Hungerstone, and that's for my vampire reading vlog, and so like that's really transitioning me into like the dark, gloomy fall time, because that's the weather I'm having right now, is like rainy, dark, gloomy constantly. And so reading Hungerstone, which is a Carmilla retelling, and I did just read Carmilla, and I'm doing a whole vlog where I'm only reading vampire novels, having a great time, and like that's really getting me in like the fall, Halloween, like spooky spirit. But then also, because when I'm filming this and when this is going up, it's the end of October pretty much. Like next week is Halloween, and then we transition into like Thanksgiving, Christmas time. And I don't typically read a lot of like holiday romances or like holiday novels, but I've been wanting to read Make the Season Bright by, I believe it's Ashley Herring Blake, I think. I've been wanting to read that for years, and I always see it in the library and at bookstores, and I'm like, oh, I really want to read that this year. So this year, I really do want to read that. Even if that's like the only like holiday type novel that I read, I'm really, really looking forward to that, because I think the cover's stunning. And also like the premise just sounds fun, and because I don't typically read holiday romances, I think it'll be really fun to like have one for this year. And it might actually end up putting me in the mood to want to read a whole bunch more, and then I'll go down that rabbit hole, because I know there's a whole bunch and a lot of like really highly recommended ones. So I have a feeling that this year I might want to read more of those, just because I feel like as I get older, it gets harder to like get into like the holiday vibe and like the holiday spirit, just because like I feel just like so nostalgic for like my childhood holidays, where like we have like the school Christmas play and like the Christmas concerts and like doing all of those things in school that you just like don't have anymore. So I feel like reading those books is a good way to help me get into that spirit a little bit more. So I will not be surprised if I end up reading more than that, but those are the two that I have for sure. And then question number 3 is there a new release that you're still waiting for? And this is like a yes and no answer, because no for the rest of this year. Like there's a few things coming out that like I have on my radar, but not that I'm like chomping at the bit to get to. And also, if you would have seen one of my last videos, I did like a audit of my anticipated releases to see if I was actually reading them, and the answer was unfortunately not really. So I still have a lot of like my anticipated releases from like the full first half of the year, and like pretty much the whole year honestly, that I just haven't gotten to yet. So I still have all of those. I feel like I'm talking really fast in this video. I'm just very excited. But so I feel like I still have a lot of anticipated releases from like the whole of the year, not so much just like coming out towards the end of this year. And like I said, there are a few things that are like on my radar, but not that I'm like going out of my way to get. However, towards the beginning of next year, so like January, February time, there's a lot of things coming out that I'm really excited for. Namely being King of Beasts by Catherine Weber and Catherine Doyle, but I think it's just one of them writing this one, which is a spin-off from the Twin Crowns series. And this is about one of my favorite characters, like favorite side characters, and I'm so excited for this. But I think it's going to be similar to Captain of Fates, which is another spin-off that they did, where I don't think it's being published in the US. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but I'm really looking forward to that, because as soon as that one was announced, I was like, oh, I will be reading this, because I really love that character. And we kind of left him on like a cliffhanger in the main series because he wasn't like a main character. So I'm really excited for that, and that comes out pretty early next year. But I do still have a lot of like anticipated releases from earlier this year that I still want to get to. So I'm not going to go through all of the ones I still want to read, because there are quite a few, but again, there are quite a few. The next question is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? And I feel like the end of the year of my reading is going to be very interesting, because this last month, so like September, October, and then November, December, so like the last 4 months of the year, I am still in grad school, obviously, and one of my classes has us reading like quite an extensive list of YA novels, as I want to be a teen librarian, and so that's kind of taking up like the most of my time. So mainly what I want to read for the end of the year is all of the stuff I need to read for that assignment to get that out of the way. So I found that making time for my own reading towards the end of this year has been really hard, just because I always feel guilty when I'm reading stuff for myself, and I'm like, well, I have like 11 books that I need to be reading for this part of the assignment that I really should be getting to. And so it's harder for me to prioritize my personal reading. And like you'll see that in a lot of like my content and like my wrap-ups and things, because like I'm reading mostly for that class and not so much for myself right now. And so when I was thinking of this, I was like, well, I mean, there are things, but I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to get to them. But we're putting it out there. I will be getting to these things. And first is The Last Hero by Lyndon A. Lewis. And this is I actually don't know. I think it's just the First Sister trilogy. And this is the conclusion to that trilogy. And in order to read this, I do really want to reread the first 2, so The First Sister and The Second Rebel. But I think that on the Goodreads page, there are actually like summaries of every like important thing that happens in those 2 to then get to this, which would be really nice. However, like these are like a space opera novels, and so like they're so expansive, and the scope of these novels is just so wide that like I feel like I need to reread them, the first 2, to get to this. And that's why I'm like, I really want to get to it, because I know that if I don't do it this year, it's just gonna like keep getting put off, especially while I'm still like really excited for this right now, because I read the other 2 at the end of last year, I think. So I just need to like reread them, or at least skim through them, read the summary potentially, and then get to this. But I'm so excited for this. And I know that Lyndon A. Lewis has another book announced, I believe, or at least like in the works. So there is something coming after this. And like, I'm just so excited to like see how she wraps this series up, because when I tell you that so much was happening in here, we follow so many different characters and like so many like corners of the universe. And so it's just, I'm very curious to see how she's gonna like kind of pull it all together and make it all into like one cohesive story. So very, very excited for this, but also hesitant, because again, like this will be the end. And I'm like this with series where it's like, I don't want to read the last one, because then it's like, I've shut the door on those characters in that world like forever. Like there'll never be any more. And so it's like right now, yes, I've read the first 2 and like this is all I have left, but like I still have something left, you know, like I still have new content with these characters and in this world. And as soon as I finish this, I won't have that anymore. And so I'm really bad at finishing series for that reason. But this I really, really do want to get to. I just need to make the time to do it. And seeing as how we only have like 2.5 months left in the year, I don't know if I'll actually be able to do it, but I really want to. And then in a similar vein is A Fiery Spirit, which is the sequel to A Bright Heart. And this is just like a fun YA fantasy duology. And I read the first one I think at the end of last year, and like I picked it up on a whim because the cover was really pretty and I ended up really enjoying it, and I didn't realize that there was going to be a sequel, but there is, and I'm really excited about it. But again, I need to reread the first one to get to this, and A Fiery Spirit was one of my anticipated releases for the year, so I need to just get it from my library and reread the first one and then get to this, especially because they're not very long. I don't think they're even like close to 400 pages, so it won't be super hard for me to get through those, unlike with The Last Hero where like it's quite a bit more and it's a bit denser. This I feel like will be really easy to do and also would just be really fun for me. So I do really want to also get to this because I had a lot of fun with this, and because I don't own the second one, I know that if I don't prioritize it, I won't get to it. So I really want to make sure that I'm doing that. And then the third one is Slewfoot by Brom, and this I have had on my shelves for years, for a very long time, and like it still has like the stickers on it and everything, but I have been wanting to read this for so long, hence why I bought myself a copy. And every year around like September, October, early November, I'm like, oh, I should read that. Like that'll be perfect for this time of year. And then I never get to it. And so this year I really want to get to it, but I just don't know. Like that's the thing. If I was just reading for myself, I don't think I'd have a problem with any of these, but because I'm reading for this assignment as well, and that's another 11 books that I need to read, that's kind of monopolizing my reading time. So I feel like I'm just not being able to prioritize the things I want to read, which like, I knew this was going to happen when I went into grad school to be a librarian, but it just is really affecting me because it's like, I want to read so many things. And also because I'm reading this much, I'm so motivated to read, which means I'm reading a lot and really quickly, but I'm not reading the things I want to read. And so it's like, I'm in this weird place of like really wanting to read, but then like not reading. It's very interesting because the things that I want to read are the things I want to read, but then the things I have to read are not the things I want to be reading, if that makes any sense. And so it's like, it's a weird reading slump where it's like, I want to be reading, but I'm just not. And then when I am, I'm like powering through all the stuff for my assignment because then I feel behind. So the end of my reading year is going to be a little bit weird and probably not quite as, I don't want to say successful, but it's quite as full and robust as the rest of my reading. Like I'm reading a lot for sure, but they're not really things that I'm picking up for myself. And like I'm enjoying a lot of the things I'm picking up for this assignment. I'm just not picking up the things that I would choose personally to read. I have a whole vlog dedicated to this assignment and like what's going on over there if you want to watch that and get more information, but like it really is just monopolizing my time. So like this, because I want to read this relatively soon, right? Because this is like a spooky Halloween type novel. And there's like pictures in here and like it seems super cool. And I know a lot of people like really like it, but I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to it. Hopefully soon. Maybe I'll finish my vampire reading vlog, have a great time with that, and then pick this up because I'm still in like that eerie mindset. But those are the 3 things that I'm really hoping to get to before the end of the year. Question number 5 is, what trends have you noticed in your reading this year? And so I'm, again, ignoring all the things that I've been reading for this assignment and looking at just my personal reading. I'm moving away from YA. Like in every like quarterly wrap up that I do, and I do like my pie charts, it's like the YA piece of the pie is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think that has to do with this assignment. And so it's once I'm done with the assignments and I'm not reading for that, I'm picking up things on my own. And it's like I've like YA'd out. I just want to read adult novels. But also I feel like as I am becoming more of an adult, I'm turning 22 in like a month, which isn't like old by any means, but like I'm moving out of the YA space just like as a reader and like as like the age demographic. And so I feel like I'm gravitating more towards adult novels, and also I feel like adult novels are being marketed more towards me now and like being pushed more towards me. And also with a lot of the booktubers that I'm watching, who I'm then getting recommendations from, are also reading less and less YA. So that is really something interesting because I will always read YA. Like it's always going to be something that I do. As a teen librarian, I'm going to have to be doing it. And like I enjoy it a lot. Like whenever I read a YA, I'm like, oh, this is really good. And I really enjoy it. But I have noticed that I'm stepping away from YA in my own personal reading, which makes complete sense. And I wonder if we'll see a shift then after this semester. So starting in January, if I'll be going back towards YA just like on my own now that I'm not like being forced to do it as much. So, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying a lot of the YA things that I'm reading for that assignment. But I just feel like even if I'm enjoying it, I'm not picking it up because I want to, I'm picking it up because I have to. And so there's still that like disconnect there. So I am moving away from it, but I don't think that's permanent. In fact, I know it's not permanent because it simply can't be, but I am reading a lot more adult novels this year. And also I've been reading a lot more horror. And I do think that, I know for a fact that this has to do with the recommendations that I'm taking from the people that I'm watching here on BookTube. And that is like, they read a lot of horror. So I'm picking up a lot of horror. And I've been really enjoying it. Like I never would have seen myself being a horror reader, but it's even like a lot of times where I'm going to like pick something up, like Hunger Stone. In my head, that's not horror. It's like literary fiction, but I'm like, I guess it is like, I can see why it's being classified as horror, but in my head, it's like not. I don't know if that makes sense. But when I go into the bookstore to pick it up, it's being shelved in the horror section. So even things in my head that aren't horror technically are. And so I'm reading a lot more horror without even really realizing it. And I'm having a really great time with it. Like a lot of the things that I'm really enjoying this year have been horror novels, which is very interesting because this is like the first year that I've really noticed that. Because like I'll pick up like one or two here and there in years past, but this year I'm like going in on horror. Like I think last quarter, my most read genre was horror, even bigger than fantasy, which is crazy because in my head, I am a fantasy sci-fi reader first and foremost, but like the stats have been painting a different picture lately. So that's really fascinating and something that I'm going to keep my eye on and see if that changes or stays or that like becomes part of who I am as a reader, but we'll have to just keep an eye on that because I'm very intrigued. But I do feel like my reading, especially this year, is being like really influenced by book influencers and the things that like they're reading and recommending. And even if they're not like particularly recommending it, if they're reading it and describing it in a way that I'm like, oh, that sounds really good, I find myself picking it up a lot more. And I think that also has a lot to do with, I just have a lot less free time this year, this semester especially, as I'm sure you've noticed. And I've said multiple times in this video, but so when I am watching YouTube or any kind of like online content, I'm specifically watching booktube and like my favorite booktubers who read a lot of horror. So it makes a lot of sense. And I feel like a lot of my reading this year has been dictated and persuaded by book influencers. Question number 6 is, how do you feel about your reading goals? And I am super excited and super happy with my reading goals this year. I set my goal at 45 books, I believe was the original goal. And I have read over 80 books so far this year, which is almost double my original goal. And yes, a lot of this is again from that assignment because I had to read 22 books for that assignment alone. However, we are only like at the end of October and I've read over 80 books already. And so I'm really very proud of myself with that. That's the most I've read in years. So that's super exciting, especially because when I first made my channel, I was even saying like, I'm going into grad school. I don't know how much I'm going to be reading because I've never been in grad school before. And when I was in undergrad, my reading just like plummeted. Like I did not have time for it. And when I did have free time, I just wanted to like do something mind-numbing. So I was watching a lot of YouTube and like TikTok and things, and I still am, but I'm also making a lot more time for reading. And I think that has a lot to do with having this channel. And like if I'm not reading, I don't have anything to post about on a booktube channel. So I feel like even in that way, I'm just reading a lot more and I'm having such a great time with it. And I'm reading a lot of things that I really love. And so my like numeric reading goal, fantastic. But also I'm just really happy with like outside of like the numbers and like the challenges and everything, I'm just really happy with how much I'm reading. And I feel the most like myself when I'm reading a lot and like going to my library and like just like checking out like bags full of books. And that's like what I've been doing lately. And it just feels very good. It's like a very cup filling activity for me. So I'm really enjoying that. However, on the flip side, I have set a few like reading challenges for myself or that I've decided to participate in that I'm not doing as well with. This year, I had said that I wanted to read 12 nonfiction in the whole year, so like one a month. I think I've read like 5 or 6. Like 4 or 5, honestly. And a lot of the purpose behind setting that goal was that I wanted to read a lot of like gender studies nonfiction and a lot of like nonfiction to do with like my area of study in undergrad because I was a women's and gender studies major. And now that I'm like out of that, I still wanted to be like reading in that and taking in that type of content so that I'm like still like flexing that muscle in my brain. And I just haven't been doing it. I've been buying a lot of nonfiction books and like been really interested in a lot of them. But again, I think just because my free time has been limited, when I have it, I don't want to be reading nonfiction. And I should have seen that coming. And the thing is, I knew that was going to happen. But in my head, I was like, no, I'm setting this goal. We started out really strong at the beginning of the year and then we just plummeted from there. So I would like to see that number kind of tick back up a little. We won't get to 12 because there's only like 2.5 months left of the year. So I'm not going to read like 6 nonfictions in 2.5 months. It's just not going to happen. But I would like to read at least like 1 or 2 by the end of the year, 1 or 2 more by the end of the year. So we'll see how that goes. But that is something to keep in mind moving forward, is that was a lofty goal to set for myself. And I was like, that's only 12 books. Like I read so many more than that in a year. It'll be fine. Yeah, but I'm not like picking up nonfiction. I think before this, like all of the nonfiction that I read had been like for school. Like I don't really pick up nonfiction for myself, which is why I set this goal for myself. So had I set the goal at like 6, we'd be so much closer to achieving it. So that's something that I will be adjusting moving forward. And then I also started participating in an alphabet reading challenge where you read a book with the title that corresponds with every letter of the alphabet. And I'm doing really well with that. Now I'm just down to like the last few letters, that it's not just like when I'm picking things up to read, they're not just like filling the challenges like they were when I first started. Because now I have like X, Z, and like J, I think, left, and maybe Q. So like all of the ones that you kind of have to like search out a little bit more. And I have books in mind for all of the remaining letters, but again, it's just like I have to actively choose to read those things, where when I first started, obviously, I had all 26 letters still left. Whatever I was picking up and reading was fitting for something in that challenge. So it's just getting a little bit harder to just kind of like pick things up willy-nilly and hope they fit in somewhere, which is also what I'm experiencing with the r/fantasy like book bingo challenge. This one extends into next year a little bit, I think by like 3 or 4 months. So I still have a little bit of time on this, but like when I first started, I was just like slotting things in as I was reading them, like completing the challenges that way, where now, and also the prompts for that one are like really very specific. I have a whole video dedicated to that and like what I was wanting to read for each thing. And like the prompts are really specific, especially because I'm trying to do hard mode for each one. And so it's not just like I'm picking something up like randomly or like for this reading assignment and it's magically fitting in. I'm having to like seek out things that I want to fit in there, and I'm just not doing that right now. So I don't know if I'll end up completing that one. And like this is my first year participating in it, and I've heard that it's like kind of hard to do, especially on hard mode, obviously. So we'll see how that ends up going, but I'm doing really well with it right now. So like overall, I'm quite happy with how my reading goals and challenges are going for myself, especially because when I set all of these goals, I had no clue how much I was going to be reading. These things were kind of just in place to give me like guardrails to keep me reading, because it's like if I was reading 2 books a month, I would still be really happy. So the fact that I'm reading this much is very exciting for me. Second part of this question is there anything you want to adjust or abandon? And so obviously I need to adjust my nonfiction goal, and like I knew that was going to happen. I feel like at the beginning of the year when everyone's doing their goal setting, I'm just like so inspired and motivated, and then things just kind of dwindle away, especially because when I set these goals, I was only taking 2 classes and now I'm taking 4. So my course load has doubled, and I'm like way more into my YouTube now, where I'm like doing a lot more with it. So yeah, I feel like I need to keep that in mind moving forward, is that like the way my life is when I'm setting the goals is not the way my life is going to stay, and like things are going to change and fluctuate, which is why I'm not like super like harsh with myself on goals, because I know that like the me I was when I set those goals is not the me who's going to be completing the goals, you know? So I'm very flexible with changing them, especially like your reading challenge during the year. Like I see people setting it like 1 book and they know they're going to get that, and then everything else they do for the rest of the year is like the pressure's off because they've technically already hit their goal. So I do really enjoy that idea, but to me it's just really fun to like see how many I can get. But then it becomes with like me trying to like one up myself with like, where I read this many last year, so let me at least 1 more the next year. And so a lot of years I'll find myself like staying up on like New Year's Eve trying to just like get in like 1 more graphic novel or like 1 more novella just to like tick it up 1 more, which I don't really want to be doing this year, because there's a lot to be said about like the gamification of reading and like the competitive nature of being on like book social media, and where it's like you have to be reading so much, it feels like, and that's just not who I am, and like I don't want to be that person. So I'm really happy with how things are going for me, but I've been talking a lot on this question, so let's move on to question number 7, which is also the final question, and that is, have you started making any reading plans for next year? And oh yes, have I. I feel like especially having the YouTube channel, I've really just been thinking about my content and like, okay, so it's not just like what am I reading. Becca in the Books was talking about this in one of her most recent videos. I don't know if it was the book tag one or something else, but she was talking about how there's a difference between like reading for content and making content from what you're reading, where it's like on one hand, it's like you're reading and you're making content with what you're reading. And then on the other hand, it's you're reading for the content. And so I feel like I'm doing like a good mix of both, where a lot of the things that I'm reading for my reading vlogs are things that I already own and are on my shelves, and I'm just kind of fitting them into themes. So like when I did my Calico Critter reading vlog, I picked books, like I read 4 books in that vlog, and they were all things from my shelves, and I just made them into a theme because that's kind of how I like to read. So I feel like I'm really mixing the two very well. However, for next year, I do have a lot of really exciting plans, and I have a lot of like series started that I want to continue. So like my Reader on Haul series will definitely be continuing. I want to do my reading like my trinkets video, where that's what my Calico Critter reading vlog was. Love that video. I'm really very proud of how that one turned out. Would love for you to go watch it because I really had a lot of fun with it. So I'll be doing more like that. But then I also have an idea for like a 5-star audit series, which I think would just be like 3 videos, where it would be like looking at what I've rated 5 stars in the past like 3 years, and then like picking out themes from there, and then looking at what's on my shelves and like what are my anticipated reads, and like do they fit into those themes? Do I think that they'll be 5 stars? And then doing a reading vlog of reading the things that I anticipate to be 5 stars based on that data. And like that seems super fun. Definitely more involved, but really fun. And then I also want to do a lot more like video essay type videos, because I miss like researching. I wrote a lot of research papers in undergrad, and I kind of miss that. And part of me feels like because there's a lot of things that I would love to talk about, but that I don't really feel like fit on the channel. And so I'm having a lot of fun finding ways to like put like a bookish spin on the topics I'm interested in. I have actually 2 already planned. I guess it's not really reading plans so much as content plans, but for reading plans, honestly, a lot of the same. Next year, I hopefully will not have an assignment like this where I'm reading this much again. So hopefully I'll have a lot of like reading time for myself again, and that'll be really nice. But I really have a lot of series to get to. I did a video a little while ago, honestly, where I talked about all of the series that I own and I'm in the middle of. And so I'd like to make some progress on that. Like, I just have a lot of things I'd like to do, and I can't really set myself super like harsh goals, which I've learned this year, because the me making the plans right now is not the me who's gonna have to carry through on those plans. And because I'm still not quite sure how many classes I'm gonna be taking next year, or like when I'm graduating, when I'm getting a job, all of those things, I can't really make super like definitive plans right now. But I have a lot of plans up in the air, a lot of ideas that I'm very excited about, and I'm always gonna be reading, so I'm not concerned. I'm super excited. But that was the last question. I had a lot of fun. I love doing book tags because it kind of gives me a chance to also just like talk, where I feel like I talk a lot, okay? I know, and I talk very fast, but I talk in all my videos. But I'm also talking, like in those videos, I'm talking about like the books I'm reading or the things that I'm doing, where this just gives me a chance to like talk about like myself and like what's going on in my life. And so this was super fun. And I wish more people would do book tags and that we would have like new book tags. Like part of me is like, maybe I should make one, but I also know that like I would make it and no one would do it because I'm like a very small little creator in my small little corner of the internet. And I don't get me wrong, I love it, but I wish that we had more like recent, more, I don't want to say relevant, but more, yeah, recent book tags that aren't for, like this one was created by Ariel Bissett 4 years ago, which isn't that long, but at the same time, like we don't have anything more recent than that, you know? And like book tags used to be popping out like this. Like we would have one like every week, and that's just not how it is anymore. And like that, just like the shifting like content landscape, I get it. But at the same time, they're so fun. And whenever I see people participating in them, I'm like, yes, like I'll watch every single one, even though we're all answering the same questions. We all have different things to say. And like, we all have different amounts to say. I personally have a lot to say. I'm sure there's someone who did this video in like 5 minutes just answering these questions with like a simple sentence straight to the point. That's not me. So like I said, I think book tags are just a great way to get to know like each content creator's style and like just a little bit more about them. So I had a lot of fun with this. I'm going to leave the questions in the description box. And even if you don't have a channel, I would still love for you to participate in the comments and answer some of these questions. And so we can have it like truly like a community aspect, which is, I feel like the whole purpose and reason behind book tags. So definitely answer them in the comments. Even if you're just answering like 1 or 2 questions, would love to hear your answers. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to me talk for like 30 minutes about these silly questions. But again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in another video again soon. Bye.